Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chakras and Cusswords podcast. My name is Catherine, and I am your host. And for those who don't know me, make sure you check me out on the socials. I have a Chakras and Cusswords Instagram and also TikTok while it's still around. But let's get into a little bit of my background. So I consider myself an alchemist. I'm really centered on astrology and also the energy of alchemy and everything that feels a little bit energetic in the chakra system and just overall life in general. I love to talk about self-care and also things that feel very intentional, working through certain obstacles and getting settled in new areas of energy to manifest and create exactly what it is that we enjoy in this lifetime. So let's look at this full moon in Cancer that is scheduled to occur on January 13th, 2025 at 5:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is a lunar event, meaning a full moon, meaning the sun is opposing the moon, babe, and it is all about illumination. This moon is a little bit intense for multiple reasons. A lot of people like to categorize this moon as the wolf moon, which emphasizes the themes that are really kind of tied into this Cancer. This Cancer energy is all about home, family, and also emotional well-being. It's a period that encourages us to be a little bit more introspective and a little bit more curious about our relationships. We're also going to want to nourish our relationships and bring areas of gratitude. Unfortunately, there is some cosmic chaos that is occurring. We have this full moon having a conjunction with the beautiful, aggressive, and assertive planet of Mars. Mars is retrograde in Cancer, and if that doesn't spice it up enough, we have it being in opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. And we have to remember Pluto is at a very early degree right now. I believe it's still at 1. I would have to check, but who has time for that? Also, this energy is all about emotions. Some might be feeling a little bit impulsive and reactive, and that's just kind of how it happens. That's sometimes what this full moon energy gives. I would say for this full moon, I would want you to look at some of the things that are your emotional triggers and either release it, or what I would like to say is also relax it. Let those emotional triggers understand that they do not harbor in you anymore because you are centered in where the area of your capacity of your consciousness really awakes. What's interesting about this full moon is in 24 degrees, which is known as a critical degrees. It's also a degree that is anomalous with Pisces. It is seen as a Piscean degree. And we have this full moon occurring in Cancer, which is a water sign. And these two water signs together reek feminine energy, but not just feminine energy for the mass population, but feminine energy that feels a little bit more intuitive and also a little bit more transformative and heightened. So the feminine energy is very sensitive. So don't fuck around because some of you might really find out. It's also advised to have some energy around your emotional health and also your area of setting boundaries. I would say this is a good moon to definitely create some areas of intentions, especially if you've been feeling a little bit less harnessed in your areas of abilities because of the Mars retrograde. We also have to know that the nodes, the North Node and the South Node, have certainly transferred over by the time that this moon occurs. So the moon is also in areas of retrospective that it does have a little bit more of that heightened Piscean energy, not only with it being centered around the 24 degrees, but also with the North Node now occurring to lay with Pisces. That Pisces energy is all about that spiritual insight and also that area of your own space of the consciousness. But let's talk about a little thing that's called a siren. You might be wondering why. Well, I decided that since this energy is critical, let's talk about an archetype that is very critical and very serious in the elements of the water signs and some of the history that lies deep beneath a lot of stories and hidden agendas. Many of us are stepping into our villain era this year or for many more years to come. So it makes a good, I guess you could say, notion to talk about something that has a very villain type era to it and a little bit more transformative than what we are used to. So, the evolution of the Siren archetype is that dark feminine energy. It's also centered around the mystic and the magic. So, it is centered around the energy of what was seen as almost like a bird like woman to almost like a bird like mermaid. It's kind of like hard to visualize. To me, I kind of see the siren as somebody that has like the body of the mermaid, but kind of like a more distinctive face. Like she definitely has that strong jawline. But over time, sirens were centered to be mermaids. A lot of people thought that the siren was the mermaid, but really the siren is not the mermaid. It was evolving more in the center of like a bird woman with a fish-tailed figures that we really seen in like Renaissance art and also the medieval time period. This energy is aligned to bring elements around water because it is known to have stories where the siren was kind of like hanging around the shores, those rocky mountains of the oceans, and just kind of like hanging out. So it is known as that energy of water and also energy of emotions and also strong subconsciousness of being like a little bit awakened. The folklore and the literature of the sirens is very deep. Sirens and mermaids have definitely become symbols of the mystic, the mysterious agenda, and also the area of seduction, appearing in fairy tales such as Hansen's, Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid, where we saw the Disney remake. So I guess you could say Ursula would have been like the siren type, right? Even though she was like a octopus body, but she definitely had more of that evil type nature about her. It is seen where we look at I guess you could say the events of Ursula like ripping Ariel from her voice and taking that throat chakra away. So that's kind of like the element of understanding your own siren, your own boundaries, and your own energy of alluring nature to your own self. What's also interesting is in some culture interpretations, such as the Western interpretations, especially in Europe traditions, the sirens and the mermaids were seen as warning to the sailors, embodying the fear of the unknown and the dangers of the sea. Many, I guess you could say, fishermen or men of the sea would tell stories of how the femme fatales, sirens, would try to allure them with their seductive singing, and also some even say that it was like a screechy like song where it almost like wrecked their men's lives. It was like okay. There's also some energies of the sirens in West Africa, known as the figure Mamiwata, this water spirit. And it kind of shares similarities, but I wouldn't necessarily call Mamiwata a siren. I seen her more as like a goddess or a spirit god of the ocean, not necessarily a siren. A siren, I feel like, is kind of like a mermaid where there's a mass population, where Mamiwata is a goddess. And that energy is around representing wealth, beauty, and danger. And the stories continue to unfold about the energy of the siren, but what we want to look at is the energy of symbolism that the siren brings, centered around the feminine power and the mystique. The feminine energy that the siren brings is very magical and mystical. It's centered around empowerment and representing the woman's ability to captivate and also influence and definitely demand attention. Where a lot of times I get so annoyed, everybody's like, we need to heal during these full moons, we need to release during these full moons. How about we just set some badass intentions on energy around growing to our own new and profound possibilities? I wouldn't necessarily be using this full moon to protect my emotional well being. I would also want to create some areas of rituals that felt very beautiful, seductive, and also intense, especially if you feel like emotionally it is something that you need to do because it's just a emotionally weary type of moon where a lot of people are centered around the healing, especially with the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo. But in all honesty, I always like to go against the grain and do a little area of ritual that feels more centered around symbolism of my empowerment. And one of the things that I definitely would talk about or even engage in would be having deep and meaningful conversations on a emotional piece that didn't feel apologetic. It didn't feel like you say something out of emotions and then you go ahead and take away what it was that you said and apologize. So, this is for you to take energy around discussing the energy of emotions and not being sorry or not apologizing for it. Because, in all honesty, if you're feeling it, you need to say it. Also, what this siren energy is asking us to do is call in to not just ourselves, but also to others to show their authentic area of expression. So, if technically you've been feeling like not emotionally touched in your relationship, this is something you're going to want to talk about and also bring up. What's interesting is when we think about the water signs always have like this emotional base to them, but they don't always hold this energy where it feels very like dewy, like some of the air signs or some of the fire signs might bring up. So that's why I want people to not only connect with their emotions, but also get centered around the energy of doing. The siren does definitely tap into the energy of the Cancer, the Scorpio, and the Pisces, emphasizing that energy of emotional magnetism and also clarity, intuition, and the allure of being vulnerable. And I honestly feel like everybody's been just a little bit too vulnerable lately. And it seems like there's a time where we need to sit in our villain era and sit in our siren era where we understand the assignment. We're done being vulnerable. We're done being centered around that mystical energy where everything feels naive. It's also tied into the energy of Neptune, where it feels like we can be a little dreamy and also a little exclusive and a little bit more of an illusion, but we don't want to be so much of an illusion where we almost feel like we're stuck or we're not centered in reality because we're diving too deep into the dreams. So really look at that energy of where it is that the communication that is centered around the depths of the soul comes back out and kind of shows that energy of where the hidden agendas and hidden desires have been laying rest. We also have to remember that Venus is in Pisces. So this is definitely a time where it will be hitting the relationships, and it will also be centered around where shadows or rose-colored glasses might be starting to feel a little bit more less hidden, and things might start to become more exposed. Also, it is a powerful reminder of strength in finding and understanding that being vulnerable is important because it allows us to be tied into our emotions, but it doesn't necessarily need to be the time that we're always in. Vulnerability is nice, but there's sometimes where you have to like stand firm on your word and remind people who the fuck they're fucking with. Also, I want to take a time to acknowledge that while the full moon in Cancer has that emotional energy, it is also tied into the area of the sun, where the sun is centered around tension and also assertiveness in some ways. The sun is centered around that professional and also the energy of responsibilities, since it is with the energy of Capricorn right now. So it definitely reminds us to stay structured in our boundaries and also to stay structured in the energy of what it is of fulfillment and certain goals that we are looking to complete. I would say that if I was to look at energies around, if I really felt like I did need to release something for this full moon, I would be looking at areas of emotional wounds to release and also areas around the feminine to release. So motherhood wounds. And I do think that a lot of masculine energies, such as, and I am going to say men. So a lot of men who have some toxic traits or also have a lot of feminine wounds might be licking their wounds during this full moon in Cancer. I definitely see where the wounds can come back up, especially if they are centered around the mother. Also, we have to remember that there is time to release old patterns while we do have Mars in retrograde, which also means that we need to release old patterns in our relationships. Yes, in the relationships. So I've been thinking about this because a lot of times I hear women talk about certain patterns or certain toxic traits or certain things that feel very frustrating in their relationship. And I'll be honest, I feel like if you told your partner multiple times that for whatever reason, emotionally, you don't feel supported or emotionally you feel like there's no energy around growth, or you're continuing to say things and you're feeling like they aren't supporting you, then it's time to reevaluate that relationship. You can only tell a person something so many times, and if they don't get it, you need to stand on your word and make sure they finally fucking get it. And it's kind of like that energy of you fucked around and you found out. So I do think some men will be repeating certain patterns, especially if they have those old wounds coming up. And if they do, it is a good time for you as the feminine to stand on your fucking word. Also, when we are looking at tips of navigating the energy, we want to practice self-care. We need to understand that we are centered around the energy of that siren, of that villain. And why is she a villain, the siren? Well, let's see. She allures men and she makes them do what they want. So that is very villainous. And also, there's a center around being aligned with emotions. So it is a time that you might have to get your man tied into his emotions. You might have to acknowledge that he has emotions that are being neglected as well. So it is definitely a time that we're going to see some of these feminine wounds coming back up. And if you want to release, definitely release around that. Also, I do think that this is a good time to set intentions around journaling and also certain rituals. One ritual that I think would be very, very cool to do would be centered around a little bit of confidence and also the energy of the siren archetype. You could create an altar or some type of visualization that really is seen as almost like a representation of this archetype. You could use silver, blue, white candles representing the moon energy, and also bring some water into it. If you could do like a little water fountain or even like a water bowl, or even get like a little water type of, sometimes they have like those little diffusers that, put that element of water, like a little water mist. What are those things called? Those aromatherapy things around that would really kind of hold some significance. You could also place a bowl of water nearby to symbolize the connection of the element of the water sign of the Cancer, and also acknowledging the 24 degrees of Pisces. And things to add would be like a seashell, moonstones, or even some type of ocean inspired. That would really bring that siren energy out. Also, that like very energy centered around the ocean and the energy of Neptune, also the moon. So I would definitely create like a little, I guess you could say, visualization or altar that definitely displays the siren energy. Don't forget to cleanse your area before doing this. So you could use sage, Palo Santos, or some type of Florida water. Also, another thing that you can use during this time, if you didn't want to do something so grand or big, would just like set up a little candle stand. So I recently purchased this little candle stand. I've had it for a while, honestly, but I really just started using it more in the areas of rituals, and it's something that I can clear away and it doesn't take up too much space. And what I like about it is that it's clear. I believe I bought it from like a thrift store. So it's something that I can just put away. Not everybody sees it. And then I can redesign it for the next full moon. I would also try to incorporate some type of ocean sounds or soft melodies of like lo-fi music that also felt very like earthy and watery, definitely watery, but definitely like hearing the energy of the air, the energy of the water. I know I have a lot of podcasts out there on guided meditations. One of the guided meditations that you definitely want to check out for this full moon would be the sacral chakra meditation, since that is the water element. Also, a good thing that you could do on writing areas would be journal prompts. And I know sometimes everybody's like, oh God, journal prompts. I'm kind of sick of journal prompts. But the emotions are the things that keep coming back up, right? So we're not going to suppress them anymore. So we are going to acknowledge them. So what are the emotions that I have been expressing or afraid of? And yeah, that's one. Another journal prompt is, where do I need to reclaim my emotional sovereignty, which is also your energy of emotional freedom? Finding that calmness to the emotions. What do I need to release to move forward? Yes. What do you need to release to move forward? And while I don't want this to all be about reflection and releasing, like I already said, I would definitely look at some areas of writing affirmations on how powerful you are, how strong you are, how brave you are, and how stoic you are. I would say that I'm naturally a stoic person, but I do get very emotional. I do start like crying over the simplest things. And sometimes when I feel the emotions, I almost get like triggered where I'm like, I don't like to feel too much of the emotions sometimes, because then it feels like overwhelming. But we have to remember that emotions are a part of us, but we also want to create some areas of stoicism. So the emotional release with water, definitely if you are centered around releasing, you are going to want to either write down what you're ready to release in like a small piece of paper, fears, limiting beliefs, unresolved emotions, and one by one, you are going to basically drown it in water. Okay, you're going to drown it in water. I would personally drown it in water overnight. Another thing that you can do is you can say things like, while you're drowning it in water, you say, I release this. This energy is released, released, released. But if you really want to get fucking magical, what you're going to want to do is speak areas of intentions, areas of strength into your water and drink it. Doesn't necessarily have to be moon water, but if you are ready to make some moon water and drink some moon water, you're going to want to do it this night, right? You're going to want to use that water, but it doesn't have to be moon water. It could also be water that is just, from your sink or faucet, or, filtered water. Another ritual that I would definitely do is the Siren activation visualization, where you basically sit comfortable. You're going to want to be very comfortable. You're going to want to be in a quiet place. Close your eyes and imagine yourself standing by the ocean under the full moon light. Visualize like the silver glowing, washing over you, filling you with radiant energy and intuitive energy. And picture yourself having like this transformation where you're slowly turning into the Siren, where you are slowly from the tip of your tippy toes all the way to your head, slowly turning into the Siren. And as you turn into the Siren, listen for the voice, listen for the strength, listen for the powerful magnetic and alluring center of communication that you have, even if it is centered around emotions, even if it is centered around intentions, but listen for it. Also imagine a dark area or like a blue area traveling up, definitely like a magnetic blue silvery area traveling up as this occurs and then releasing through the voice. It's almost like a whole aerial experience, but definitely feel it, breathe it, see it, enjoy it, understand your strengths and how people actually do listen to you when you are speaking, how people understand what you are saying, how people hear you. Your emotions will flow freely with purpose and strength. So you definitely want to be authentic when you do this, and you definitely want to turn this inner power strength all the way up to what it is. And you could say something like, I embrace my emotional depth, my magnetic energy. I am a Siren of my own soul, calling in all the possibilities of love, power, and alignment. Also, if you are planning on speaking your intentions, I really hope you write them out. Writing out your intentions are so powerful, and be a little bit detailed so you go back and check them out on the next full moon. Also, look at energies around creating centers of, like I said, moon water, but also centers around a ritual bath or a whole voice activation. So the Siren's energy is centered around the throat chakra, which is the energy of, like, I guess you could say the energy more of like an air sign, because it is around the element of sound. But the Siren's energy, most of the time when we are taking in the Siren energy, it comes from that emotional space where it's centered around the energy of passion, which is all about the sacral chakra. So the chakras that are really going to be affected with this full moon in Cancer, of course, are the sacral chakra. I would even say the solar plexus chakra and the throat chakra. So those are the ones that you're really going to want to emphasize on. Also, you're going to want to perform like chants or affirmations or centered around areas of gratitude. So I am going to do a quick little pull for some of the zodiacs, actually for all the zodiacs, and we will be starting in this order. So the first card that I am pulling for is for the fire signs, and then the second will be the water signs, and then the earth signs, and then the air signs. So this is going to be a quick reading. I also offer a new reading package on my website where basically you are purchasing a personal reading, and I will send you a recording of the reading, and it's anywhere from about I think it's about 15 to 30 minutes long, depending on what it is that you're asking. And it's about $45. I believe it's $45 for the actual reading. So if that's something that you are interested in, you can check out my website, Chakras and Cusswords. Okay, so let's look at the first card, and I'm pulling one card. The deck that I am using is the Crystals and Tarot deck. So the card that I pulled is Bella Rosa. This deck my dad got me from, I believe he got me from Mexico, and I will be honest, I am not really familiar with this deck, so most of it is going to be off of intuition. This is a time for change. Okay, this is a time for drastic change for the fire signs. So if you are a Aries, if you are a Leo, if you are a Sagittarius, it's time to fucking dead some situations and change. Change that energy that has been feeling toxic. Change that energy that has been feeling undisciplined. Understand that you are beautiful. You are gorgeous. You are the rose. You are the Bella Rose. You are the beautiful rose. But sometimes people take advantage. Sometimes people take advantage of our emotions. Sometimes people take advantage of our areas of abilities. And it's time for us to make a fucking change. Look in the mirror, do some damn mirror magic, realize how beautiful, how confident, and how lovely you are. Being around you is a blessing. And do what it is that you need to do. If that is a cord cutting ceremony, if that is more confidence energy centered, if that is just having stronger boundaries, it's time to set those intentions, especially as we are turning into the year of 9. We are in the year of 9, the Mars year. We need to be assertive. We need to be positive. We need to be making moves, okay? So we need to be that version of ourselves that we know we could be. For the water signs, so Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, I'm talking to you. And this card is 3 of Mirrors. Like I said, I'm not familiar with this card. I'm not familiar with this deck, but I can basically just tell you what this means. It's time that we look at the energy of reflection, especially in the energy of who we are now. So every ritual you do needs to have at least 3 main steps. It also needs to resemble how powerful you are. You do have a good alignment around you. You are centered around the energy of the peacefulness, but we don't want to be so peaceful that people take advantage of us. We don't want to be a sheep. We are the lion, and we need to acknowledge that. We need to acknowledge that we are the lion. We are courageous. We are brave. We are centered. That is the energy that we have. And I really think we need to practice on some confidence, affirmations, and also seeing how strong and powerful we really are. And that's why I didn't want to be so focused on energies of emotions and energies of releasing. I know every astrologer is telling us to protect our emotions, protect, and heal. There's a time where you just need to set good fucking boundaries. And that's really what I want the collective to do. Also, I would look at some areas of ancient lessons, some areas of ancestral lineage, and see how some of these old lessons can really feed harmony to the purpose of who you are today. Now for the next card, this will be for the earth signs. If you are a earth sign, that means you are a Virgo, Taurus, and you are a Capricorn, which is technically your season. This is the energy of the muse. You are beautiful. You are gorgeous. You are lovely. You are the feminine energy that runs wild in the fields. You are magnetic. Don't ever, ever forget that. I do feel like a lot of good things are coming for the earth signs, and I feel like this is centered around a little bit of like a classic energy, an energy that feels very centered around movement, and also seeing your assertiveness and seeing how beautiful and powerful and bold you are. It screams out a lot of sun energy, and also energy of intense nature of sitting with our passions. This is definitely a time that you're going to want to sit with your passions, sit with movements. I feel like somebody's getting lucky in love. Maybe they're really seeing that this person that they've been with actually has some full potential, right? Looking at the energy of wisdom, looking at the energy of guidance and letting it guide you to your next adventure. For the air signs, if you are an air sign, that means that you are an Aquarius, Libra, or Gemini. For you, this is a time for you to work in the energy of 6. The energy of 6, 6 in stones, maybe your bones, but be conscious. Also, what you want to look at in the energy of 6 is this full moon is actually the energy of 6, as is centered around the 24 degrees, which breaks down to 6. 6 has a lot of rituals and a lot of energy around movement in numerology, of creating new pathways. I see a lot of finance in this card, and I also see a lot of energy around success in this card. So I want you to get a little bit more determined in the areas of success, money, and also the heart chakra. I know I didn't talk much about the heart chakra, just a little bit, but also we need to see that we are very, very stable. And to become very, very stable, we have to have some good rituals. We have to have some daily, consistent rituals. So don't allow others to block you. Don't allow others to block your projects, your initiatives, your movement. You're going to want to continue to force through and be powerful with that energy. You're also going to want to be loyal to that energy, the energy of the heart chakra. The heart chakra is centered around areas of love and relationships, but it's also centered around that area of gains. And what are some of the gains that some of us get a little bit nervous around? And that is money. Understanding that money can bring success. Money can bring new opportunities. Money can bring that energy of responsibility and also harmony and balance. And that's what the number 6 means. And 24 reduces down to 6. So you're going to be associated with that energy. So definitely look at some money rituals, some energies of responsibility, and some energies of balance and creating consistency in your overall goals. So I want to thank everybody for listening to this podcast. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share it with your favorite witchy bestie. Also, help your girl out with some long-term growth. Give me a little 5-star rating. It helps me move up the podcast ladder. And also, don't forget to follow me on the socials and give me a couple likes. And I will make sure to like some of your posts back. Just tell me you're a listener, and I'll really be a nosy, because I always wonder who are my listeners. But everybody have an amazing day. Bye.